A very good afternoon, everyone. I am Neha Gupta from Shivway and your host for the day. I hope you all are doing great. I would like to welcome you all for this amazing panel discussion event where we are going to talk about founders' insight for scaling startups, drive retention, building exceptional customer experience. Today's event is brought to you by Shivway, a shipping automation platform and awarded as Logistics Startup of the Year. Shivway has finally unveiled its one-stop solution for all the D2C brands, that is Shivway One, compact solution of 5 different apps into single platform. Now brands can partner with Shivway and leverage its plethora of post-purchase offerings such as courier aggregation, shipment intelligence, tracking and notifications, fraud detections, return and exchange without having to offer different apps for different functions. At Shipway, our aim is to bring our entrepreneurial community some of the inspiring stories, expert advice, insights, latest trends, learning, and opportunities from the D2C ecosystem. Now it's time to welcome our guest for today. We have invited yet another powerful entrepreneurs and growth experts from D2C ecosystem. Guys, we have with us Bhaskar Agniswaran, founder and CEO at Vajro. He is the co-founder and CEO of Vajro. He is an entrepreneur and an e-commerce expert who has been featured in the CEO magazine, India Retailer, CEO World, and many more publications. He has a background in chartered accountancy, which took a gradual turn towards entrepreneurship. Over the last 15 years, Bhaskar has founded several companies. He took Vajro to the #1 spot in the mobile app builder category in the Shopify marketplace. Bhaskar is a 40 under 40 most influential leaders awardee. His vision for Vajro is to become the most used mobile app development platform. He's passionate about solving the challenges that e-commerce businesses face while using the technology. Welcome, Bhaskar. Now we have Bhavik Vasa, founder and CEO at GetVantage. Bhavik is an entrepreneur and business leader with 14 years of global experience across fintech, e-commerce, digital payments, and mobile technologies. He's deeply passionate about building for and empowering entrepreneurs. He founded GetVantage as a purpose-driven company by founders for founders. He's also an angel investor and is on the board of multiple startups like BNT Fintech, Tested Finance, Blue Turquoise, and Living Food Company. Previously, Bhavik was Chief Growth Officer at It's Cash, instrumental for its scale as India's leading fintech and its exit to Ibix Group in 2017. He has a bachelor's degree with honors in international business from Northwood University, Florida, and executive training in entrepreneurship from Stanford University. A very warm welcome, Bhavik.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's finally welcome Kaushik Tribhuwal, co-founder Campus Sutra. Kaushik is a co-founder at Campus Sutra, currently leading the growth portfolio and new brand charter. Campus Sutra is one of the largest bootstrap D2C fashion brands in India. Prior to this, he worked at Flipkart for 5 years and during his tenure was a part of multiple category development roles and growth projects. He was also the part of Blackberg, India's largest trucking network, for 3 years and was leading the product building for order management system and in-house CRM platform.
Thank you, Neha.
Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you all join us today. Would you like to say a quick hi to our audience?
No, this is good. Looking forward to a wonderful and interactive session. And I encourage everybody in the audience to ask us difficult questions. So we make this a little more interactive than just one-way conversation.
Okay, great. All right, guys. So fasten your seatbelts. Let's start the session. Before we dive in, let's start off with a little introduction. So Bhaskar, tell the viewers a bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. Thank you so much, Neha. So I'm a chartered accountant by qualification and been an entrepreneur for the past 15 plus years. So we launched Vajro for Shopify in April of 2018. And since then, we've been growing at a real fast clip. So today we serve over 2,000 clients in the Shopify ecosystem. And we have many leading D2C brands in India as our clients for Vajro. So it's been an exhilarating journey so far in the past 4 to 5 years. And we still believe we have only just started. It seems like there's a long way ahead of us. It's a huge market, especially e-commerce. That's something that I'm very passionate and excited about. So looking forward to a lot more years at Vajro.
Wow, that's amazing. Bhavik, tell us about yourself and the vision behind GetVantage. What will the growth strategy of GetVantage in the coming times?
Fantastic. So, thank you again for having me on this panel. And I think, as you rightly shared a little bit of my background, I have been an entrepreneur and founder myself over the last decade plus in India and across. And I think GetVantage was born very simply from my own personal challenges and pains as a founder and entrepreneur. And I think both my colleagues here, and especially Kaushik, will also agree that as we build the businesses of today and tomorrow out of India, brands of the today and tomorrow, we're going to need all forms of access to capital to grow and fuel this growth, right? I know as I was building It's Cash, and I can share this with all the audience, we'd raised a lot of equity capital. Even then, when I needed growth capital, when I needed that quick working capital, quick access to finance to grow for a season or grow for the next quarter, there were not enough options out there. And so what GetVantage really does is we truly are a founders platform offering that quick access to capital to all the brands, emerging brands of today and tomorrow, and whether you're equity funded or a bootstrap business. And I have a lot of extra compliments for brands like Campus Sutra and Kaushik who are building it in a bootstrap way, or Bhaskar, a lot of the brands that you might be servicing might have all sorts of capital that they've raised, but can we provide non-dilutive, quick capital so that each of these businesses can fuel their marketing, fuel their growth, fuel their inventory, and get to the next stage of growth. And so we are betting long on India. And so GetVantage is that unfair advantage for every founder and entrepreneur out there to quickly get access to some more growth capital.
That's pretty awesome. D2C ecosystem is growing so fast. So a lot of brands are emerging up, and also the enablers are side by side emerging, to support D2C ecosystem. So Kaushik, please share your entrepreneur journey and about your company to the viewers as well.
Good afternoon, guys. Glad to be here with Bhavik and Bhaskar, speaking to all of you. So I'm sure many of you would have heard or shopped at Campus Sutra at some point in your career, right? So currently we're one of the largest D2C fashion brand in India, digital first, vertically integrated fast fashion. We're available in more than 500 retail outlets across India in top five large format stores. Shoppers Stop hai, आपका Central hai, Metro hai, right? So we are also currently spread across 22 countries. One of the few fashion brands, or I think only digital fashion brand, which should be available across so many countries right now. We were one of the first brands, you can say, on Flipkart, Myntra, doing marketplace business. So we have done a lot of pilot with them, and sort of together we have grown, and we have seen the D2C and the e-commerce system grow in India. We are currently a 300 plus crore brand, and with our, I think we are sweetly positioned to be doing 1,000 CR very soon. I think we're targeting 3 years, let's see. And yes, everything bootstrapped till now. I'm sure we need the help of GetVantage Vajro soon in the coming future. So again, I have an interesting story, right? So being bootstrapped, we have always been swimming against the tide, right? When we started, I think Campus Sutra started from a 400 square feet office in a building which was supposedly haunted, right? So haunted, एक MG road में था, लोग बोलते थे भूत है, right? From there to being now in a 1.5 lakh square feet doing 20,000 orders per day. So this is our story from Atma to Atma Nirbhar. I think, let's see, I think a long way to go. This is
wow,
it.
that's pretty interesting.
So from personally, yes, I have
okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please continue, sorry.
Yeah, personally, I've also been part of Flipkart and Blackbug, again, both startups. I think two different places, very different culture. I think we take a lot of learning from different startups, different D2C companies. There's so much to learn. I think we're using it all across, and think long way for India and D2C to see in the future.
Wow, thank you so much all of you for a quick introduction and sharing your entrepreneur journey with us. Really being pleasure hosting you all. Guys, before we jump on to the next question, here is a quick announcement. If you have any questions which you wanted to ask our experts, please drop them in the questions tab, not in the chat section, or else they get missed. Moving on to our next question series of the questions. What are the unique challenges faced by D2C industry? Any tips and suggestions to overcome them in 2023? Any key learnings? Bhaskar, we can start with you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Neha. I think in 2023, what I call as post-pandemic year, I think engagement and experience are even more relevant to brands than before, because during the pandemic times, we kind of saw a lot of, increase or an impetus to e-commerce. We are now seeing things returning back to normal. So I think in that context, I think it is very, very important for us to really look at engagement and experience from a slightly different angle. So I think the key challenge today for D2C brands from more from a customer retention standpoint, it is going to be all about ROAS, right? So there are significant spend on ads from a lot of brands. Are they getting more bang for the buck? I think that is going to be the key question. So, and from that perspective, I think the way they can, a lot of D2C brands can basically, get the max out of it is to basically aim for customer retention and aim for better engagement. I think that is going to mean a lot to D2C brands in terms of the kind of returns that they can get on their ad spends. I think to me that is possibly one of the biggest problems that D2C brands needs to think about.
I'll chime in here, Neha, and give a slightly broader perspective to everybody listening in, right? And actually throw this question back to everybody listening in, saying, what really is D2C, right? I think it's a great way we started off by calling a niche segment, which is direct to consumer. But I would rather let every business and brand call themselves an emerging brand. I think we have Kaushik, and he'll throw more light, where he's already a brand that is across various channels. Yes, he's direct to consumer. Yes, he's in offline stores. Yes, he's selling through his own stores, through other networks. And I think that's what every brand needs to look at themselves, that they are an emerging new age brand. Yes, they should use better technology, better tools to engage, reach their customers, but really build a business that is across various channels. And I think that's what even Bhaskar was highlighting, that post-COVID, brands have to really see as to what their reach is across various channels, right? And while every business looks at it from that perspective, I think the potential in the future is still bright, right? Irrespective of the high spike we saw during the COVID or the lockdown times, or a little bit of a linear or saturation across growth numbers. But I think this next decade belongs to young emerging brands across every category and sector, whether it's product or service. And when we can come from a perspective and look over the last 2 years as Getvantage, we've backed and funded over 450 brands across 18 different categories. And from literally their growth trajectories, we are able to really share this insight that today for every business and every emerging brand, it's really the new 4 C's is what we talk about. The new 4 C's that we've really deciphered, that there's no silver bullet answer for anyone, but at least this is a simple mantra or formula, which is look at content, community, collaboration, and capital. These are your 4 C's that can be very, very important for you to be a brand to scale 10x and 20x over the next couple of years. So look at yourself as an emerging future brand across categories, across sectors, and try to really cut yourself away from the clutter by using this 4 C's, right? Focus on your content, focus on your early community and early adopters, collaborate very closely with brands across other categories and sectors, and access to capital. I think this is going to be the success mantra.
I think
Awesome,
Kaushik,
Bhavik.
your views on it, yeah.
I think both of them have covered it very well. I think two big challenges which we clearly see is one is the ROAS and the ROI. I think both of them sort of covered it, what is required. I think the most important is you need to be agile. There are so many channels which keep coming, keep going. You need to be there when that channel is picking up. Aapne dekha, I think Facebook was something which was driving the sales. Gradually, you move to Instagram. Instagram is now taking up the major chunk from Facebook. There has been a TikTok revolution across outside India, which we are seeing. I think, again, you need to be there. There's a WhatsApp shopping which might come in soon, right? You need to be there. You need to be aware. You need to be seeing. You need to just quickly just latch on to what is working. You cannot miss the boat. There's so many brands fighting for that same customer. Anyone can overtake campaign. Second, I think, which is not a new problem, but an older problem, but which continues until we solve that. I'm sure this D2C cannot be as big as it is required. I think the entire shipping and the supply chain issue. Shipping, I think we still have seen brands, not ours, but we have seen brands which are having RTO of greater than 30%. You can never be successful. It cannot never be sustainable. RTO, there are multiple issues, right? There are, I think, delivery across India is still not at the speed which is required. I know people in Jammu and Kashmir, I know people in Northeast who are receiving orders after 7 days. Until you sort of bring it to 2 days, it's not there, right? Aapke fraud issues are still there. You have so many courier partners. You need to be sort of reaching out to all pin codes. I think thankfully we have ShipRocket, we have ShipPay, which are sort of solving these issues. It's important to again use the capital, use whatever you have, work with third-party agencies, work with enablers. And I think these two problems, if you solve it, I think you're there.
Completely agree with you, Kaushik, and then Bhavik. Of course, the new definition of marketing, 4 C's and 4 P's are like has been emerged in the market to scale your business. So my next question is related to that only. So for years, the 4 P's of marketing have been product, place, price, and promotion. With thousands of D2C brands emerging, a new set of P's is taking hold will mean the difference between standing out and getting swallowed up by the competition. That is personalization, partnership, positioning, and purpose. So, dear panelists, please share your some actionable insights, key learnings, tips around new P's of marketing to scale your business.
Hey, yeah, thanks so much, Neha. One thing that strikes me in the past couple of years that we've been seeing a lot, which is kind of very new, is live video sales. So it's pretty big in China. Like it's a $600 billion industry in China. It's growing quite fast in the US. So in fact, at Vajro, we were one of the first mobile app builders in the world to launch a live video feature from within the app. So, but it is live video is something that has really taken off in the last couple of years. For some reason, we are seeing that it has not really caught on that much in India, but I think it is definitely something that could go big in the next couple of years in India as well.
That's pretty awesome. It's great insight. Bhavik, would you like to add on?
So I think when you said personalization, right? I think what I wanted to highlight again, whether we call it the 4 C's or the 4 P's, I think what's important is to understand that in today's day and age, technology has commoditized a lot of things, right? So today, every business can reach its customer, so much so that even production or product towards a level has gotten quite commoditized, right? Today, you have OEM factories that can build cosmetic products and private label it for anyone who wants to build a brand. I think really what the differentiation is in terms of personalization is understanding what is that unique differentiation and to who are you serving that unique differentiation. What is that core group of community or that early adopters of your product and service, right? I'll tell you a few examples in our brands, and you will see that there is a lot of cult brands that then become what we call as cult mass brands, right? So examples, if you're in apparel, start with and learning your audience. And I'm giving you some specifics because it's important for our audience to have that as a takeaway and then implement in their business. Where if you're an apparel brand, look, are you a streetwear brand? Are you a fast fashion brand, right? Are you catering to a growing street culture or skateboarding culture in India, right? Are you servicing for that? go down to that specific and start from there, because once you get your early adopters, you design your product for them, you personalize your product for that community, and then can you build on top of that uniqueness for yourself, right? That's where even your messaging, right? I think Bhaskar talked about ROS or ROI. I think it's becoming important because today, not only emerging brands, but what we've seen is that traditional incumbent large brands, right, and FMCG brands are also now spending on digital media, unlike traditional media. And so now everybody's fighting for that same ad space or spending a lot more premium. So of course, for a young brand, if you are trying to cut across and spend for everyone and solve for everyone, you're going to be lost, because you can never compete with the big boys unless you have a very, very clear, differentiated segment product that you're spending towards. Your ROAS matrix will always be skewed. So absolutely, again, try to make sure that you're not only your product design, but what your product is speaking to in terms of content, positioning, in terms of the community you're following. And then don't shy away by backing that fully and accelerating your growth with all forms of capital. And here is where, over the last decade, and I know, Bhaskar's been around as an entrepreneur, we can all validate, talk about 10 years ago in India, we had access to only 5-10 VC funds, a few angel investors. Now this is the time where there's not only so much more capital and equity capital available for businesses, but also there are alternative forms and other forms of capital available for businesses to now fuel that growth and accelerate in the spaces that they are really doing well, right? So you have to get your strategy right and then absolutely back yourself 100%. Otherwise, there are many players wanting to enter and join that space. Just to give you I was talking to a founder the other day, and, Kaushik, you can kind of dovetail and share that, in the space or in apparels and clothing, there are so many brands, but in personal care, there are 50,000 brands registered and operating in India right now. So we can say that, hey, there is a lot of clutter, but the India opportunity is still large, where a lot of brands have not even reached the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And logistics is solving for that. But you have to really, really understand your niche and positioning, and then back yourself 100% with all forms of capital to scale quickly enough.
I think for the crowd, I think it's very clear examples. Mamaearth, right? How well they have positioned pregnant mothers' needs, which is very different, right? You have LET, sort of, which is your cosmetics brand for the young teens. It's solving a very niche problem. It's just in skin sensitivity for those people who are of that age, right? So I think you've covered positioning very well. I'll also mention the purpose thing, I think, which has come in very new. I personally think if problem cross positioning isn't there, this doesn't fit in very well when it comes to purpose. But your new age consumers are such, they're a lot more concerned about the whys behind the product. They're also concerned about what difference is the brand making. Again, a good storytelling can actually convert your consumers to be your evangelists, right? They tell your story on social media. They build the brand for you. So it's very important. I think this also gets covered by a lot more new brands which are coming in. I think I have two good examples. I've seen this Whole Tooth Food, right? They're sort of bringing the entire 100% transparency about the ingredients which go into making. Then you also have the old brand like Dove, right? One of the biggest brands. So they're not just selling soaps or personal hygiene products, right? They've been using their platform to bolster the self-love, like, which of women for themselves. Like we can relate to it a lot, and hence I think they are where they are. I think this purpose is something which has come in very new. I think Niemann's is a good brand to look at how sustainability they are picking up. I think they use that as a marketing hook, and we can see, I think they see that traction. I think all four is very critical here. I think positioning is I think it's nothing has changed. I think pehle bhi positioning hona tha aur abhi bhi chahiye aapko. Nothing, you cannot just do anything. You need to just target that niche to be there, to be sustainable, and to be sort of be fighting for those small places.
I completely agree with you all, and thank you so much for sharing such amazing insights. I'm definitely sure it definitely gonna resonate with the listeners and the budding entrepreneurs. Moving on to my next question to you, Bhavik. As the D2C industry is expected to become $100 billion market in the next few years, indicating that there will be a great demand of funds by new age financiers. How can revenue-based financing can help companies and other stakeholders with streamline their operations and business?
So I think I try to tell the industry and founders, irrespective whether this is 100 billion opportunity or 10 billion opportunity, the number is big enough. The India opportunity is big and large, right? I think what we are trying to solve for with this alternative model of funding is simply saying that irrespective of what your journey is, whether you're raising equity money to focus on brand building, focus on capex capital, whether you're bootstrap business, building it very differently, one of the best ways to evaluate yourself and to continue to get to your next growth and milestone is do a more sustainable way of growth, which is purely defined by the simplest and oldest fundamentals of business, which is your revenue, right? How can we look at truly a business's performance over the last 6 months, 12 months, and give them additional capital that allows them to accelerate that growth and go a 2x or 3x without diluting, without giving away ownership, and at the same time, the most cheapest cost of capital, right? It's interesting, and we should actually ask Kaushik to share this because he's worked at 2 startups that have been poster childs of Indian startup ecosystem and VC money. Both Flipkart and BlackBuck, Kaushik has raised a lot of equity capital, but he's chosen to go a bootstrap way, right? And I think what revenue-based financing or this kind of growth capital is doing is allowing businesses to be judged on their performance and not on any human bias or any fancy ownership and structures, right? You're a business, आप बहुत simply last 3-6 महीने का 50 लाख से 1 करोड़ का revenue कर रहे हो. Why don't you come take quickly that capital and pour that into either you want to increase your inventory for the next 2-3 months, increase your digital marketing, and just get your revenues from, get your revenues to 2x, right? And so what we really believe is we are complementary to any other forms of capital. A business should absolutely, whether it's for seasonal spends, whether it's for increased, checking out your performance in elasticity, right? I think Bhaskar can talk a lot about the brands that they work with, where you have to, and when you start increasing your performance marketing or increasing your digital marketing spends, it's actually a J curve, right? You'll actually first see a negative ROAS before you start seeing growth coming in, right? And so for all of that, checking your elasticity of performance marketing, opening up a new channel of sales, increasing your inventory, can you have access to quickly anything from as little as 10 lakh rupees to 5 crores, right? And that's where GetVantage comes in as that complementary partner and gives you that access to that just booster capital.
Thank you so much, Bhavik, for sharing this. And this is a new age of finances of supporting the D2C ecosystem. And I'm sure many brands are there who are seeking such sort of fundings in order, so that they won't be able to dilute their equity, part of it. And then they'll not get threatened by big investors to start their business. Yeah. So moving on to my next question.
Neha, we have a couple of questions from the audience. There was one that was specifically addressed to me. I'll quickly answer that, and Bhavik, there is one addressed to you.
Please.
So, so there's Bharati who's basically asked me the question, tools that can help businesses research, engage, and analyze audience behavior. So I want to quickly talk about it. So there are a lot of tools that are available now for what you have asked, Bharti. So I think I would possibly talk about just 2 or 3 here in the interest of time. So the recent one that I came across where we talk about reach, engagement, and a whole lot of other stuff. So I came across this tool called Klaviyo. They're one of the largest marketing automation tools in the world. So you can do a real lot with that. So it's a beautifully organized tool. So it allows you to kind of map your audience and bucket them into different buckets, and it allows you. There are multiple options for you to engage with them. You can use email, you can use push notifications, you can use a lot of different means to engage with the audience. So you should definitely check out Klaviyo for reach engagement and audience behavior analysis. You can also look at WebEngage. That's very similar to Klaviyo. So WebEngage is also an awesome tool that you can look at. And the third tool that we suggest a lot is basically Yotpo. So again, it allows you to do multiple things from a single dashboard. So you can analyze audience behavior. You have a lot for engagement, loyalty, rewards, reach. So you have a lot of stuff put together. So my suggestion would basically be to look at tools that can do a lot of things together, that is very deeply integrated with your core platform and so on, so that it is really easy for you to get a lot of things done from one tool. That has really been the way to go in the last couple of years.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. And yeah, of course, these automation tools help actually the B2B clients to scale their business. Apart from that, moving on to my next question, many D2C brands are turning to SaaS-based solutions to manage their business operations and drive profitability. So, as per you, which are the leading SaaS companies in India that are making strides in D2C space, and what are the avenues available? Bhaskar, we can start with you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Neha. So yeah, there are a lot of SaaS companies in India that are coming up. It will serve a wide variety of needs for you. I would possibly answer your question slightly differently. Just take a step back, right? Identify, if you are a D2C brand, identify what your core issues are. What are your unsolved problems today? Right? I think that's where you need to start. And if you go and research, for example, if you am kind of very deep in the Shopify ecosystem. So if you look at the Shopify ecosystem, for example, there is literally nothing that doesn't have a plugin, right? So for each and every problem that you have, you possibly have a plugin in the Shopify ecosystem that can solve your problems. So if you do sufficient research in the ecosystem, having the problem in mind, I'm pretty sure you can get your answers. So to me, it's all about going into the right ecosystem. If you really understand what your core problem is and basically try to research accordingly, you should be getting a lot of answers. Because if I start talking about very specific tools, I could just go on for hours together, because I'm in that space, and that basically, that's my bread and butter. But I think the way you really need to look at it is take a step back, look at what your core problem is, what your unsolved problems are, and then start researching from that. There are a ton of players in the market to solve that problem. And there are always ways and means through which you can basically find out who the best player is.
So I think I'll add, so for someone like us, right? So it is very critical we focus and channelize all our energies on building a brand as much as possible. Right? Everything else that can be outsourced or can be sort of given to a specialist, it should be done. It's important that we focus on our core. Right? A very clear examples, again, the entire logistics, shipping part. You have so many partners there who are doing it. You have payment gateways who are helping you, Razorpay, GoQuick, so many of them, right? When you have website development, you have Shopify, you have Vajro, I think, for building app, right? So again, one avenues will open up. It's very difficult to say what are the avenues available for someone to now enter the SaaS company, but these avenues open up as the consumer behavior changes. I think something which I know is, I think, influencer creator ecosystem, which is a big avenue currently, because so far, I think the entire accountability towards revenue was missing in the entire ecosystem. I think with so much pressure, so many with ROAS across Meta getting difficult to achieve, a lot of investment here will be looked with a lot of caution. But if this is developed well, there's a lot of scope for these companies to grow, and a lot of revenue will be put onto them to solve it. I think second is obviously the customer experience. I think everyone is doing something. So there's so many D2C brands. You need to enhance your customer experience. You need to figure out those new places to sell. I think these two places are where I see a lot of scope, but I'm sure the avenues will keep up opening up with time, how consumer behavior changes.
No, I think, and just to circle off, right? I think, like Bhaskar said, there are enough and various plugins and tools available out there. I would really recommend a lot of brands to also look at a lot of chatbots. There are a lot of WhatsApp extensions. A lot of brands that are doing well are using now WhatsApp as a communication tool for not only but during checkout and post shipment communication and engagement with the customers, right? So absolutely integrate a lot of these tools, and believe you me, not all of these are as expensive as you can think of, right? So absolutely, but don't just do it because there is a tool out there. Do it because you understand and you can really service that part or that leg of the customer really well. Because one is to implement a lot of tools, but if you really don't implement it to your strategy as to what are you trying to do with that customer, I think then it's just a lot more conversation and noise back and forth. It's like saying that sometimes we use too many mediums. And I'll tell you the flip side of this as a consumer. Communicate with me a little too much and it annoys me as well. So be really smart, because right now technology is available across. Nobody else says it. Thank God I'm not a D2C founder and I can say it because it's easier said than done. But don't try to over communicate. You know, when we book an order, if I'm going to get an SMS, WhatsApp and email, I think that's an overkill, right? Don't send me too much communication. Allow me to have a good experience, not an over-the-top experience. And I think that's something that is a fine line that everybody should consider, because we all are ordering through many different apps and many different products and many different services. We want less communication. We don't want too much clutter. Just give me the information I need at that moment. And so being relevant is also very critical in this time of over clutter.
Thank you so much all for sharing this. So my next question to you, Bhaskar, a higher customer retention rate signifies that a company can make its customer happy with its products, services, and motivating them to continue with the company and not churn away to the competition, right? So as per your view, what are the proven business strategies, example of customer engagement retention to grow your business? Because a lot of people, D2C brands are looking for customer retention and engagement and retention strategies.
Correct. Yeah. See, retention, as I said in as an answer to your first question, I think retention is very, very critical, because the more you retain, the more bang for the buck you can actually get, right? So retention is obviously very critical. So, but I think, when it comes to what brands needs to do now in a saturated market, I think from that perspective, I think D2C brands really need to understand how tools work cohesively, or how to make tools work cohesively. I will put it that way, right? So that is very critical, right? For example, I was talking about Klaviyo and WebEngage, right? So how do you marry that to a mobile app, right? Unless you understand some of those nuances, it will be very difficult for a brand to engage in the right way with their audience, right? So for example, the way most of these marketing automation tools work is there are multiple events that can be tracked. And then on the other hand, you have multiple channels through which you can communicate to your customer. I mean, that's what a marketing automation tool is fundamentally all about, right? So how do you make that work, right? What are the channels that are available? What is your audience? What do they like, right? You have to figure out all of that. And in accordance with that, you need to set up your tools and processes so that you get the max out of it. That to me is the way to go.
That's amazing. And customer retention is the key to success of every business. So my next question to you, Kaushik. While D2C brands are eyeing retail stores, existing retail players acquire resources to build an online presence, like Pavik said. An omni-channel model is undoubtedly in for growing popularity. So why it has been become more crucial for D2C brands to offer an omni-channel experience to establish brand recognition and loyalty with their customer?
So I think I don't totally agree, but what is most important is the number of times or the frequency with which you're able to interact with your customer. So being present everywhere brings that awareness, right? As a brand, you need to do a very well-rounded targeting, right? You know when a customer, which you didn't know before, now you know when a customer has come to your offline store, what has he purchased with you online, or when he has come offline and then he's went away without purchasing. You need to know what did he what can he purchase, and you sort of start nudging him online, right? So Abhi, we also see a lot of customers, they just like, they come, if they even come to shop in store, they want to see a product on the shelf and then sort of go to an e-commerce store to look for a possible discount or options, right? So hence your presence on D2C and on online it is a must when it comes to current state. But it's very, very category dependent. We felt the need, hence we are across all the large format stores across, and even we are now sort of looking at offline stores outside India. We have done it, but it's just a little open-ended question, honestly.
No, I have a slightly controversial one here. The more founders I speak to, the reality, we can talk about how well the system and ecosystem is growing, but I think we are also losing on customer loyalty. There is nothing like a loyal customer anymore. Let's look at it. I mean, it's a tough one and a controversial one to say it out loud, but all of us, right? There was a time when we used to go to one store, buy one thing. We were loyal customers. Now, with all of us having access to social media, digital access, there isn't anything like customer loyalty, right? You have to really be able to be relevant and keep making sure you build that connect and relation with your consumer. Like Bhaskar said, understand the channels, understand how you want to build that engagement, right? Or like Kaushik said, be available, because sometimes availability or being convenient, being at every channel is important. Because gone are the days where we have customer loyalty to an extent. Today, a customer is more about impulse buying. Do I really like this? He will try, right? So all the D2C brands are today realizing that we have to do a little bit more than just saying, I can rely on customer loyalty, or that, that very fancy matrix that all brands build, right? Which is CAC versus LTV. I don't think that exists anymore. I think all of those numbers, and I see Bhaskar smiling because he's seeing it on a daily basis. It's all about, you're as good as what was it that you did as a brand yesterday in terms of your product positioning, and how did you reach, or how are you available to your customer today?
And of course, the pricing is also a critical part of it. That's make you stand out. Yeah. And, because the ecosystem has changed. Initially, we had limited options, but thanks to digitalization, we have now multiple options. So the purchasing power of the customer has now more repeat purchases, towards the more repeat purchases, right? Driven. So my next question to you, Bhavik, despite negative market sentiments, the D2C market has done pretty well this year. Many players raising funds for international and offline expansions. Like Vadam has created a live case study in terms of going global. Now it's become a benchmark for brands. So as per you, what are the main investors' criteria before investing in any brand going global and looking for an expansion?
No, I think even, some of the questions that have come in through the chat today, right? Somebody asked us, what's the advice for when you are a very young brand and you're getting started? How with limited resources, limited capital, what do you focus on? Or like you mentioned, what are the investors looking for today, right? What are the investors, or what is the market looking for a brand as it wants to expand globally? I think the answer is very simple. Focus and do a few things really well. I think in today's time, it's not about being everything to everybody, but really doing a few things really well, right? Let's take the live example. It's a very dear friend of mine, a founder we've always backed. We've seen their journey grow. One of the best D2C exits is the mom's company that we see today, right? And Mohit and Malika, as founders, really stuck to their core. They solved one problem really well, which is baby care, right? And they stuck to a slightly mass or premium mass segment, right? Never tried to become a very mass brand either, right? A great success story in that. You mentioned about Vadam, right? And Bala is another dear friend. We've been backing them as well. And another example you see is they're known as a tea brand and now focusing just on saying, how can we take that Indian chai to the world, right? So again, sticking to your strong core and your niche, right? And I think that's what's the differentiation. I'll give another example. Many years ago, people thought cosmetic products or personal care products with M caffeine, saying coffee with personal care, right? How large could that market be, right? And I think M caffeine has changed the perspective for everyone. I think that in itself is a large enough space. So really, I think whether you are a brand that is starting really small and in early stages, solve for a couple of SKUs, couple of products really, really well. Create your niche, set up your brand that differentiates to the rest of the market, right? And then as you think of scaling up, still stay very core to your roots and scale in your parameter as what your brand is recognized for, right? If you try to be everything and all things, very difficult because you will not have so much capital, right? And like you rightly said, not only does India offer the ability to go deep because of technology, because of investors, it's also time for the Indian brands to take onto the global stage, right? So if you do a couple of things really well, not only can you go deeper and capture the Indian opportunity, but also can you go global. And that's where you'll be surprised, Neha, that we are not only helping brands in India grow and expand, but also as they're starting to sell on Amazon US or Amazon UK, we're able to give them PO financing or order financing so that they can inventorize, right? Sell and export globally, right? And making sure that they get the capital to pay for that growth, which takes about a quarter or two for their funds to come back as sales happen, right? So you don't have to worry about anything else, but just get your product, your niche right, and you can then look at expanding not only in India, but anywhere else in the market as well.
Awesome point, Bhavik.
Yeah.
I just want to add to what you said. So what we see sometimes is the niche need not be limited to your product. I'll give you an example. One of the earliest users of Vajro was basically a small online store called Kumari Shopee. Okay, they're based out of Kanyakumari, a southern district in Tamil Nadu. So their only niche is they're the only guys in the district that do same day delivery. Okay, absolutely nothing to beat them on that, right? With that, they've grown significantly now. And as you rightly said, Bhavik, the way they've been expanding is they've brought about the same day delivery in neighboring districts where you still don't have that kind of same day or next day delivery from the likes of Amazon and Flipkart.
Totally.
So the niche need not be restricted to your product. It can be around some of these stuff too. Absolutely,
Bhaskar. Whatever, like exactly what you said, what you as a business do really well, do that fundamentally superbly well. And, you know, like you gave that small example, I think that's the beauty of what this offers today, right? I always believe that India is not going to be one player takes it all, right? And another controversial statement, equity funding or VC funding model is for the winner take it all model. But as my colleagues will see here, India is going to be a market of many. Let's take the example of pet care. We've funded 8 to 10 brands just in pet care. And Bhaskar, exactly like you said, small, very, very niche in terms of their geography segment that they offer. We have a husband and wife couple that you know, to a eastern and southern part of India do pet care, which is very culturally different than how the north or the west of India would take pet care products, right? And I think it's exactly that. What geography can you really solve for? What is your product? And like you said, is there a product or a service that you can really do well and better, right? Because I truly believe India can be, and India always has been, right? We've always been a small business economy, right? And that's what's going to be the backbone of, you know, if we have to be the, you know, the largest economy in the world, it's going to be driven by our small businesses. And that's where, whether it's called a D2C or a small business or an emerging brand, that's what's going to fuel our overall economic growth.
Absolutely, Bhavik. And I couldn't agree with you more with respect to, it's never going to be winner takes all. So very, very rarely we have seen that, even when you take large companies, for example, if you take the cloud companies, right? We all thought AWS was the only player who was going to be successful, and then Google came along, and then AWS came along, and then you have niche players like DigitalOcean and so on. So
Yeah.
I think in any arena, I think it's never going to be winner takes all. There is always going to be sufficient room for niche play, and it's going to be no different in e-commerce.
And e-commerce or edtech, health tech, I think every sector is seeing growth. Bhaskar, to your point, not only did we thought Byju's would take over all edtech, right? But we are backing and funding businesses and brands from Kota. Small tutorial classes who are now expanding pan-India, and they do their exam or that particular course better than anybody else, right? And I think that's what you're seeing even in the product category across any segment. Absolutely.
Thank you, speakers. This is amazing, and I'm gonna love every bit of it, and I'm sure it definitely gonna resonate with the audience also. And then over the years, if we talk about 2010 and now, the e-commerce industry has evolved from vertical brands to horizontal, then marketplaces, and now D2C brands. So thanks to pandemic also, because that's how the D2C brands learn how to survive and thrive in this game.
And
So,
thanks to logistic players like Shipway as well, because I think reaching every zip code is very critical. And bringing that logistic experience is also very critical. Otherwise, I don't think local small Indian players can compete with the global brands unless we solve for distribution and reach.
that's why enablers are there to help the D2C ecosystem.
Happy both
So,
as a consumer as a brand.
yeah. So moving on to the questions which the audience have shared. So let's pick few of them. So Gurmehes has asked, do you feel pre and post purchase experience is important for a D2C brand? Anyone can join in to answer that.
So I think both Bhaskar and Bhavik mentioned, I think the retention is one of the key things which is most important currently in a D2C business, again, to make it sustainable. I think post-purchase behavior, this is where it comes, right? You need to know your customer end to end, right? Everything is dependent on what your customer gives you as a feedback. Is your product good? Is your packaging good? Is your product solving his problem? Is your logistics solving his problem? Did it reach it on time? You need to take all those feedback, right? So hence that post-purchase experience needs to be taken in with him. You need to also ensure you also provide those warranties and the guarantees, because there's so many options are there, so many things are there. You need to be the best, right? So from a post-purchase behavior, I think it's always been one of the most important things. From a pre-purchase behavior, I think there's a lot of examples which we have, right? Again, taking it forward from what Bhavik had said, you need to be the best in what you're doing, right? I'll give you an example, Lenskart, right? People were already buying, there was so many shopping happening. As a pre-purchase, they launched it, right? You upload your photo, you see how the specs looks on you, and then that is when you start buying it. So that pre-purchase experience is very critical. There's another again, so people are also now buying your bigger stuff like washing machine online. So now you can just you can example is a lift space, right? You just upload the photo of your balcony. You see how those products look for you. That is a pre-purchase experience, which is a differentiator. You create that differentiation, people will buy from you, and that is how you stand out in this market. And this is how everyone needs to find that differentiation, right? So I think pre-post, I think as important as anything else in this industry.
Thank you so much for Kaushik.
And I think he's covered it
for
all.
the
I think as a brand
Yes.
owner, he's covered it all. I think the last piece I'll leave with is the word consistency. It's about the entire user journey, whether it be pre, post, right, or through the whole process. Have and try and keep a very good consistency. Don't overcommit in the start. Don't underdeliver in the end. Keep a strong consistency, because like I said again, and I'm repeating, brand loyalty is only limited to overall experience that you're giving them. And that's what's differentiating for the consumers today. So make sure the consistency in the experience is through the entire life cycle.
Bhaskar, would you like to add on?
Yeah, I think Bhavik has been spot on. Consistency is definitely key. So purely from a technology standpoint, I would say also take a look at what tools and processes you have to make sure that you provide that experience. That's the only thing that I wanted to add.
Thank you so much, all. All right, guys, this brings us to the end of this wonderful session with our awesome panel experts. This was indeed a value-backed session, although there is a lot more that we could have covered and learned. Unfortunately, we have a limited time here. I hope you guys love this session. Once again, I would like to thank our awesome speakers and audience to take out the time to be part of this event. Bhavik, Bhaskar, Kaushik, would you like to say thanks to our audience and bye?
Thanks, guys.